A relatively small but significant counterpart to the troubadour movement is the Trobairitz, which is the women poets of the medieval tradition. The one of the more significant of them is Beatrice, the Countess of Dia. We don't have a lot of information about her particularly. We only vaguely think her name was Beatrice, quite frankly. But we have a significant little chunk of work, which is, well, it's 5 existing poems. Uh, of those, however, one of them, they're all fairly short lyrics. One of them actually shows that it's, comes with evidence of its connection to the musical tradition. The idea that these are songs more than written poems, so to speak. That connection comes to us through one poem of one of the 5, which comes with a very short melodic accompaniment, which if you Google, you can find recordings of. It's not something I am going to try and sing, certainly, but you can hear the original Provençal language along with the intended accompaniment on a flute. It's very beautiful. It is very delicate sounding, and it gives a sense of the kind of poetry that women were expected to produce. But if you actually read the words as they are, there's some significant elbows being thrown in this body of work. Beatrice of Dia was no shrinking violet. She wasn't just up there just waiting for the man to come and rescue her. She had some ideas. She had some attitudes that she didn't mind throwing around. You can see a lot of this sense of self-assertion in one of the 5 pieces that is generally entitled "A Lover's Prize," at least in the translation by Peter Dronke. I have been in great distress for a knight for whom I longed. I want all future times to know how I loved him to excess. Now I see I am betrayed. He claims I did not give him love. Such was the mistake I made, naked in bed and dressed. How I'd long to hold him pressed naked in my arms one night, if I could be his pillow once. Would he not know the height of bliss? Floris was all to blanch Fleur, yet not so much as I am his. I am giving my heart, my love, my mind, my life, my eyes. Fair, gentle lover, gracious knight, if once I held you as my prize, and lay with you a single night, and gave you a love-laden kiss, my greatest longing is for you to lie there in my husband's place, but only if you promise this, to do all I'd want to do. Ooh, that's a little spicy. That's an interesting little chunk of sentiment there. Well, significantly. First, you have the subject of love. That is clearly the subject of most Provençal poetry, but she's bringing a somewhat different idea to it. The men in the Provençal tradition tend to focus on love as a kind of unattainable ideal, as something divine that they are aspiring to. This is not that. This characterization is very different. This characterization of love is from a much more realistic standpoint. There is an opposition of perspectives suggested in it, and she is complaining once again. It is a kind of unattainable love, but it is unattainable because he seems to have turned away. He seems to have been no longer interested, and she is taking that as a bit of a affront. And you can see this great, again, self-assurance in this, self-assertion, declaring that, you know, I want all future times to know through my poetry, which, you know, it's not unique among poets to think that they are writing for the ages every time they put pen to paper, but still, just the fact that especially a woman, quite frankly, at that time would be thinking, okay, yeah, this is going to survive for the rest of time. Not so sure. But also, um, the self satisfaction expressed in it. Um, would he not know the height of bliss? The height of bliss is to be with me, because I am fabulous. I am the ideal. Now, is she? I don't know. Maybe that attitude, maybe that self confidence, that self assurance is intimidating to guys like this knight who got away, and so he went and ran the other direction. But she doesn't quite understand this because she is fabulous, but it's not working. So, from the other perspective of that romantic ideal, of that uh, somewhat divine notion of love, that she feels that, yes, I embody it, I am perfect. Um, it doesn't necessarily work in the real world. The real world of men and women, of worldly relationships, of sexual relationships, doesn't necessarily connect with anything from a divine realm. And also, look at the frank sexuality. She is naked in a lot of this, and she doesn't mind talking about it. I am naked, whether I'm such a mistake was I made, naked in bed and dressed, how I'd long to hold him pressed naked in my arms all night. You know, there's a whole lot of nudity going on here. This is at least a PG-13 type thing. Um, Sexuality in medieval courtly poetry, that is not as common. The idea of sex is kind of baked into the courtly tradition, the whole code of chivalry in a sense, but it is so infused with notions of duty and service and the ideal and the ideal nature of love that sexual contact itself is almost a profanation of that. It is sullying the perfect ideal of love. But she goes there. She is pointing out that, well, no, it's really not different at all. It is sexuality is part of love, and that is an uncomfortable place for a lot of guys to be in, I would guess here, because in participating in the courtly ideal, which this is a part of, there's a kind of playing with a net version of it, where they're, okay, we all know this is a game, we're all just sitting there playing, and yes, I am professing my undying love to you, but oh my god, you want me to do what? There's that sense of stakes that comes about in this. It's a stakes that demands recognition of her essential humanity. The male perspective of idealizing womanhood is one that denies that humanity, one that puts them on a pedestal and looks at them like an agent of divinity. But is that fair? To deny basic humanity, basic lusts, basic feelings? She is here, her feelings are quite hurt, it would seem, that this knight is no longer interested. She's demanding some recognition of her humanity. Her ego has been bruised, perhaps, and it is a prodigious ego. So that just ups the stakes just a little bit more. And also, look at how she, in this, is feminizing the knight, essentially. Fair, gentle lover, gracious knight, if once I held you as my prize, and lay with you a single night, and gave you a love-laden kiss. The knight is the woman in this relationship, quite frankly, the way it's being drawn. She is the aggressor. She is, the one who is holding him. She is giving him the kiss. She is laying with him. All of the agency in this is with her, and he's just sort of lying back, and he's being the pretty one that's being swept off his feet. Little power struggle there, little inversion of the normal man-woman dynamic as we would presume it to be. And also at the very end, that final twist of the knife. My greatest longing is for you to lie there in my husband's place, but only if you promise this, to do all I'd want to do. Which is a very suggestive, phrase. Now, you can say that, okay, maybe if your mind is going to go in the completely dirty realm, fine. Maybe it is, okay, we're going to do the dirty stuff. Maybe it's more about just the power. Maybe it's more about just the control. She is, in this poem, upset about the loss of control. She thinks she is so fabulous, so terrific, so divine in every way that the knight would, of course, remain loyal to her, devoted to her, and yet he has turned away. And this is what's upsetting her. She wants the power. She wants the authority. She wants the control. Because, well, what do women generally not have at this stage in history? Very much control. They don't control anything. That struggle for power pervades every one of Beatrice's works. The one with the music is that for which we have the music is another interesting case, and it's a relatively short lyric, as most songs tend to be, but it hits on a lot of these same themes. I am obliged to sing of that which I would not, so bitter am I over the one whose love I am, for I love him more than anything. With him mercy and courtliness are of no avail, not my beauty, nor my merit, nor my good sense, for I am deceived and betrayed, exactly as I should be, if I were ungracious. I am amazed at how you become haughty, friend, toward me, and thus I have reason to grieve. It is hardly right that although love has taken you from me on account of anything said or granted to you, and remember how it was at the beginning of our love, may the Lord God never wish that my guilt be the cause of separation. My worth and my nobility, my beauty and my faithful heart should help me. That is why I send you there to your dwelling, this song, that it may be my messenger. I want to know, my fine and noble friend, why you are so cruel and harsh with me. I do not know if it is haughtiness or ill will, but I especially want the messenger to tell you that many people are harmed by excess pride. Which is intriguing. Again, you get that sense of betrayal, that sense of outrage that she is so great, and yet you're turning away. You worship me as a divine symbol of love, and yet I have no power. You can sense the outrage. You can sense the confusion that women are held up in such esteem as such divine authorities almost, and yet are ultimately so vulnerable, so unconsidered. The ideal of love is held in contrast to the sullen world. It has, these poems have a kind of daring sexuality, but it's always at a gap from what is true love. Is true love or anything pure at all attainable? Or is it just what comes between two people on a much more imperfect scale? the self-assurance that marks both of these poems. Is it a sign of human weaknesses, after all? Can any human emotion, be it love or pride or joy, can any of that be really pure if it is tainted by power, by the lust for power, by the control of one group over another? And here it is unmistakably gendered. Men control women in this world. Women are ornamental and are meant to be ornamental. And if you listen to the music from this one song, you can see how pretty it is. It's meant to be pure ornament. It's not supposed to really touch you. It's not supposed to reach you on a genuine plane. And as such, you have to wonder, the voice that would produce that up on a pedestal, how lonely must that be?